Hey everyone, Cherie Warwick here, Black Blockchain Consultants, here with a recap for the conference or forum that I went to today, Blockchain Forum, held by the Northern VA Hispanic Chamber of Commerce. And there were some interesting things that were said that I really wanted to pass on. Now, a lot of the group or the panelists talked about government, but they also talked about some things that are happening in the private sector as well as it relates to blockchain and enterprise solutions. So the short term, one of the things that came up is short term, people are really looking at education and prioritized use cases in terms of how they're making their money. Education or training and prioritized use cases. Uh, Everyone's looking around to see who's going to adopt the technology first within the government side, for example, different agencies, or the corporate side. And then once proven, the floodgates are going to open, especially on the enterprise side. So right now we're in a very good position because everyone's just kind of waiting to see what's going to happen. They're waiting to see what's going to happen. IBM is making some inroads. Other companies are making some inroads. And all of a sudden, when people see a real use case and say, wow, that's working, like it's working for Walmart or it's working for another company in the supply chain or some other aspect of blockchain and maybe smart contracts or identity verification, all of a sudden the floodgates are going to open and people are going to be desperately looking for us to help them with education, with onboarding, use cases, technical statements of work, getting the blockchain projects up, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So a part of what we have to do is stay in the game long enough to see the wins happen. All right. So the next thing that they talked about is that when you are selling blockchain to a prospective client, you are selling against the status quo. And the status quo within a business has to not be meeting that business's needs. So what does blockchain help with in terms of being a counterpart to the status quo? Number one, business executives want things that are faster, cheaper, and more secure. And if we're able to show and to prove and to discuss in layman's terms that the blockchain is faster, cheaper, and more secure than the status quo, than what they're currently using, we're going to win. So part of our executive briefings as blockchain consultants is the fact that we have to really position the blockchain and show that the blockchain is going to be faster, cheaper, and more secure than what they're currently doing today. Another thing that was expressed by the gentleman of IBM was that a lot of technical people have been going into these C-suites and putting the math up on the board and all the academics up on the board and being a blockchain purist and talking about decentralization. And the truth is that these executives care about one thing, and that's return on investment. They want to know the use case and the return on investment for putting a blockchain solution within their company. So the next 1 to 2 years, this is actually my question. I said, what's going to happen in the next 1 to 2 years? Where is the money going to be? And I was told that number one is the financial sector, anything related with food, supply chain, healthcare. Also, utilities, especially within Europe, they're doing some things now in terms of utilities and energy. That's probably going to come to the United States as well. I was also told to think about it in terms of looking at intermediaries, current intermediaries that we can disrupt and disintermediate. Then getting those former intermediaries into a consortium, into a blockchain consortium, and changing the way that they do business. I was also told again within the next 1 to 2 years that people will also think about similarities such as transparency in multiple industries. So one of the things you can do as a blockchain consultant is you can think about a solution that the blockchain handles, like transparency or like digital identities, and use that as a use case amongst multiple industries. So you can do an industry vertical, or you can do a solution that the blockchain focuses on and work across multiple industries to uh, implement that solution within different companies. And then for small businesses, products, thinking about products that do not have an intermediary or that needs to be disrupted in the long term is something else you want to think about as well. So what we want to do as consultants is we want to think about how we can help companies and their employees and their staff adopt and operationalize the blockchain, because that's who's going to win. If we can help companies and employees adopt and operationalize the blockchain, we're going to win. So how do we help with adoption? Anything from policy, legal, doing briefings, analyzing the news, analyzing, for example, what the SEC is saying and relaying that information, and executive briefings, which is something that we do, Blockchain Consortium International, uh, and the Center for Blockchain Studies. Those are all the things that we're going to be doing. And the final question that was asked, there were a lot of questions, so this isn't final. The question came up, what's the killer app within blockchain? There were 3 people that answered. One of them, actually 4 people that answered. 2 of them said they didn't know, that it probably hasn't been invented yet, the killer app. One person said that digital identity issue would be solved on the blockchain. That was going to be the killer app. Someone else mentioned the meta use of wallets. So being able to take one wallet and use it across all platforms was going to be the killer app. And the ease of use, like having a regular Joe or Jane off the street be able to use the wallets. Just like people now are able to go online and put in a web address and use the internet instead of saying, HTML.169.14. Like nobody was able to do that, but now we're able to put in blackblockchainconsultants.com and people get it, you know. So, and then the final thing for the blockchain killer app that people talked about was user experience. User experience. Once the user experience issue is handled, then we should see more mass adoption of the blockchain. So there was a really interesting explanation that one of the panelists gave that I thought was very interesting. He talked about digital IDs in terms of right now you go to a bar, for example, and you have to be over 21 to drink. And they want to card you. When they card you, they look at your entire driver's license. It has your address on there, it has your date of birth, it has other information on there potentially depending on what state you live in. What he was saying is that the blockchain would be able to set it up where you're able to put in a public ID or scan a public ID or QR code or something like that. And all it tells the bartender is, yes, Cherie is over the age of 21. It does not tell the bartender my date of birth. It does not tell the bartender where I live. And it does not even tell the bartender my name. But you'll be able to have the QR codes, and that is part of your digital identity that is verified by the government. And then they talked about a lot of other ways that digital identity was going to be used. But I thought that was very interesting in terms of that being a use case. So the final thing that I will say is the conversation came up from a business point of view of being a consultant and being a blockchain consultant and what that needs and what that means and what executives are looking for now. So Gerard from the Government Blockchain Association talked about the fact that they have over 8,000 members, and there is a real need for consultants who are not coders, who are not necessarily technically based, but who can talk about the business use and the business case and the return on investment to executives. Again, this goes back to our executive briefings. And the ability to speak in such a way with these executives that they're able to make executive decisions based on what they're hearing about the blockchain and how the blockchain can affect their companies. So if you're anything like me, I'm a business plan writer. I do financial forecasts, budgets, things like that. I'm able to go in and do a briefing for any kind of executive and talk about the blockchain use in layman's terms and the return on investment that having the blockchain should mean. And again, blockchain should be faster, cheaper, and more secure for these companies based on the use case that they have. So let's see here. That is it. Yes. There were, yeah, that was it. So hope you enjoyed this synopsis or summary of what happened today at the Northern Virginia Hispanic Chamber of Commerce and their blockchain forum. And I wish you a wonderful, blessed day.